wife and I spent our summer holiday in 1914 in Scotland, in Ross. We could look across the water to Skye, and I took my daughter out fishing in a boat. The wild birds fed their young within 30 yards of where we were staying. Gannets, oyster catchers, and a dozen others. Alice, my wife, thinks it's the most beautiful place we visited, except Bavaria. On August the 4th, the day war was declared on Germany, we watched the troop trains pass through Inverness and Edinburgh as we went back to London. The spirit of the men is splendid. I wish I could go to the front, but they may find some menial occupation for a worthless person. It's a pity I'm too old to be a soldier. I'm so active. Everything is at a standstill, and we have nothing left in the world. Absolute financial ruin. But we're so cheerful, and I'll die a man, if not a musician. But when I went to Henry Wood's Promenade concert the other night to hear one of my new pieces, it seemed all out of key with the other music they played. My land of hope and glory and other patriotic things. Concerning the war, I say nothing. The only thing that wrings my heart and soul is the thought of the horses. Oh, my beloved animals. The men and women can go to hell, but my horses. I walk round and round the room, cursing God for allowing dumb beasts to be tortured. Let him kill his human beings, but how can he? Oh, my horses. I've been rehearsing my Wand of Youth suites for a concert later in the week. It's not the music for October 1915. I don't like it at all. It's all dead. What a different world when I wrote it. Nearly 50 years ago. I was 10 years old, and my brothers and sisters and I used to walk the 3 miles from Worcester to Broad Heath, the little village where I was born. There we used to make up plays, and one of them was all about the despotic rule of my father and mother, to show that children were not properly understood. The scene was a wooded glade intersected by a brook. On one side was our fairyland. Beyond, small and distant, was the ordinary life we forgot as soon as possible. The characters who crossed the stream entered fairyland and were transfigured. I wrote music for it, a piano, 2 or 3 strings, a flute and some improvised percussion. But we had the gorgeous imagination of youth, and the piano became a whole battery of percussion, a whole choir of brass, or an array of celestial harps, as required. I was a bit of a prodigy as a pianist. When my father went to the big country houses around Worcester to tune the owners' pianos, he used to take me with him and let me show off the instrument by improvising on it. I hoped to get a musical education, and I worked hard at German on the chance that I'd go to Leipzig. But my father couldn't afford to send me away. The only thing to do was teach myself. I saw and learned a good deal about music from the stream of music that passed through my father's music shop. I read everything, played everything, and heard everything I possibly could. I remember, as if it were yesterday, the day I was able to buy the score of Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony. I stuffed my pockets with bread and cheese and went into the fields to study it. That was what I always did. In this way, I was awakened to the possibilities of music, romance, fire, poetry, and I tried to write some. I'm still at heart the dreamy child who used to be found in the reeds by Severn's side, with a sheet of paper trying to fix the sounds, and longing for something very great.
Edward and I used to cycle for miles together in the lovely country that surrounds the southern part of the Malvern Hills. As time went on, he told me of the misery he'd endured because he was the son of a tradesman and had been brought up in a music shop. I could scarcely believe my ears. I knew this shop, with its scores and instruments, was the only academy Elgar ever attended. Edward, how can you be ashamed of it?
Oh, as to my father's being a shopkeeper, Rosa, I don't care a damn. All I can tell you is that shop ruined me and made life impossible until I'd, well, as they say, made my name. I only know I was kept out of everything decent because my father kept a shop.
Unfortunately, his marriage did little to help his resentment, for Alice came from the class which emphasized the inferiority of Edward's social background.
I met my wife when I gave her lessons in piano accompaniment. I used to go up to her house, and after a time the old coachman who'd been with her family for years was heard to say that he thought there was more in it than music. Of course he was right. But just imagine, she was the daughter of a major general in the Indian Army. I was the son of a shopkeeper. I was a penniless musician, and I was a Roman Catholic. We got engaged in September 1888, and the news brought cries of horror from most of Alice's relatives. One of her aunts was going to leave Alice a substantial sum, but when she heard about our engagement, she cut her out of the will. Another aunt stipulated that no money of hers should pass to any child we might have, and she kept her word.
Alice was nearly 10 years older than Edward, and it was difficult to believe that they were husband and wife, but one thing was certain. She worshipped him with a devotion so absolute as to make her blind to his faults.
She really did believe my most trivial achievements were works of genius, and she wrote poems for me to set to music, leaving them on my desk with little notes written in our private language.
For my beloved's bufful music, will this do? Peas not beat.
Just before Alice and I were married, I wrote a little piece called Salut d'amour for her, and sent it to a publisher in London who bought it outright for 2 guineas. The other day, in wartime London, I heard a street musician playing it. I put a few shillings in his hat. "Thanks, governor," he said. "Oh, that's all right," I told him. "That's more than the composer ever made out of it." Thinking back to Salut d'Amour reminds me that whenever I've written a big, serious work like Gerontius, we've had to starve and go without fires for 12 months as a reward. But things like The Mask I wrote for a music hall show called Crown of India earns me enough money to buy the scientific books I've yearned for, and I spend my time in the old bookshops. I found Benjamin Haydon's autobiography, which I've wanted for years, and metallurgical works and all sorts of things. Also, I can more easily help my poor family, my sisters Lucy and Polly and my brother Frank. So I don't care what people say about me. The real man is only a very shy student. And now I can buy books. I found a lovely volume called Tracts Against Popery. I appeased Alice by saying I bought it to prevent other people seeing it, but it would make a cat laugh. Then I go to the National Portrait Gallery and can afford lunch, but I can't eat it because Alice has put me on a diet. The music hall people behind the scenes are so good and so desperately respectable and so honest and straightforward. Quite a refreshing world after society. Only don't say I said so. It's all very curious and interesting. My labours will soon be over, and then for the country lanes and the wind sighing in the reeds by Severn-side again. And God bless the music halls. I think a decent obscurity in the country is all I can attain to. There's nothing for me here. And I'm made to feel in many ways I'm not wanted. I can't do any real work with the awful shadow of this war over us. Some of my dear friends appeal to me to work in order that the people, the music lovers, may have something really good. Very complimentary to me, of course. Something they really want. Well, they don't want me, and never did. One's friends are the people to be most in dread of. I could fill a book with the criticism passed on my early efforts. When I've written anything slow, they say it ought to have been quick. When fanciful, solemn. In a word, I've always been wrong. It was just the same after that wretched first performance of Gerontius at Birmingham in 1900. All my best friends, with one exception, said to me afterwards, "Oh, now a popular song or two will make up for that."
He took a great natural pride in his big house in Hampstead. He called it Severn House. It had fine panelling, a long music room, and a great staircase, at the top of which Alice would stand to receive their guests. But he was always anxious to impress on me that his success meant nothing to him, and there was always some lovely thing in life which had completely eluded him. He told me the only part of his life that had ever been happy was the years of struggle at Malvern, and that even now he never conducted his music without finding that his mind had slipped back to summer days on the Malvern Hills. Edward, you're in clover here at Severn House.
Oh, well, Rosa, I don't know about clover. I left that behind in Hereford. Everything pleasant and promising in my life is dead. I feel life has gone back as far as when I was alone, and there was no one to stand between me and disaster. I'm more alone now, in 1917, and more the prey of circumstances than ever before. I've been daydreaming of woods and fields, or a journey to Fountains Abbey, or some lovely remembrance of long ago idylls. And now, deep snow. Well, I've put it all in my music, and also much more that has never happened. Alice and I are in Chatham, where I'm conducting my Kipling songs. Kipling objected to his poetry being performed like this in music halls, by the way. He's perfectly stupid in his attitude. No performance last night, though. Terrible gunfire, raid, etc. I am not well, and the place is noisy, and I don't sleep. The guns are the quietest things here. Oh, I long for the countryside and Worcester. I think all the time of it. I've been thinking so much about our lost festivals. No more music. Everything good and nice and clean and fresh and sweet is far away, never to return.
I found that Edward's new friendships after he'd moved to London were with people unconnected with music, which he now almost seemed to regard as something unworthy of serious attention. It was a pose, of course, and I suspect the main reason was his conviction, deepened by contact with many of Alice's friends, that music wasn't really a fitting concern for a man of the fashionable world. Anyhow, one way and another, the impulse to compose anything but trifles seemed to have left Edward. You know, all his life he'd been prone to illness, colds, trouble with his ears and sinuses, and general depression, what he called
being mouldy.
This all got worse in 1917 and led to a painful operation for removal of a septic tonsil. The night he went back home to Seven House after the operation, he composed the first music he'd written for 9 months, one of the main themes of what later became his cello concerto.
Alice has found an oak-beamed cottage in Sussex. It's called Brinkwells, near Fittleworth. It's divine, with a wonderful view.
I'm delighted to tell you that Edward's first exclamation was, "It's too lovely for words." And he was quite pleased with the house and has loved every minute since we came, so you may think how relieved and pleased I felt. I'm in the garden, and before my eyes lies a wonderful deep wood and low hills beyond, and then the downs. Larks are singing, And there are some fields as well, and in the evening the nightjars go whirring around on the fringe of the wood. It's a most extraordinarily lovely spot. Endless walks and paths in the woods. There's also a carpenter's bench and tools, etc. And Edward has already made me 2 rustic footstools.
I've never seen anything so wonderful as the sun climbing over our view. I see now where Turner found such sights as Norham Castle. I rise about 7, work till 8:15, then dress, breakfast, pipe, I smoke again all day, work till 12:30 lunch, pipe, rest an hour, work till tea, pipe, then work till 7:30, change, dinner at 8, pipe, bed at 10, no pipe. Every day practically goes thus. We go lovely walks, the woods are full of flowers. Wonderful. They're still carpeted with bluebells, but the heavy rain of 3 days ago tried them severely and they look rather faded. I'm at last composing again. Chamber music. Alice calls it wood magic, says it's elusive and delicate. However, the first movement of the sonata is bold and vigorous. High summer and divine warmth. I'm better, but not fit for the world, and don't seem to want it. But I've been writing much music, and I had Willie Reed with his violin here for a clear day. I'd asked him for a week, but War Office duties called him. I've finished the sonata, and now I've had a letter from the poet Lawrence Binyon. I set his For the Fallen, and now he sent me his Peace Ode.
Lovely word, flying like a bird across the narrow seas, when winter is over and songs are in the skies. Peace, with the colour of the dawn upon the name of her, a music to the ears, a wonder to the eyes. Now let us praise the dead that are with us today, who fought and fell before the morning shone, happy and brave, an innumerable company. We will not say that their place shall know no more of them. We will not say that they have passed and died. They are the living, they that bought this hour for us and spilt their blood to make the world afresh. One with us, one with our children and their heritage, they live and move, a spirit in the flesh.
I don't feel drawn to write peace music somehow. I thought long months ago that I could feel that way, but the whole atmosphere is too full of complexities for me to feel music to it. Not the atmosphere of the poem, but of the times we live in. I also regret the appeal to the heavenly spirit, which is cruelly obtuse to individual sorrow and sacrifice. A cruelty I resent bitterly and disappointedly in this year of grace, 1918.
Now is the time for stripping the spirit bare, time for the burning of days ended and done, idle solace of things that have gone before. Rootless hopes and fruitless desire are there. Let them go to the fire with never a look behind. The world that was ours is a world that is ours no more. They will come again, the leaf and the flower, to arise from squalor of rottenness into the old splendor, and magical scents to a wondering memory bring, the same glory to shine upon different eyes. Earth cares for her own ruins, naught for ours. Nothing is certain, only the certain spring.
I've started composing again and hope to proceed, but the axe claims me. I chop down shrubs and bushes and make huge bonfires in the wood, meanly delighting that I can burn more than anyone I know. My wife is a wonderful woman. I play phrases and tunes to her because she always likes to hear what progress I've been making. Well, she nods her head and says nothing, or just,
Oh, Edward.
But I know whether she approves or not, and I always feel there's something wrong with it if she doesn't. I played some of the quartet to her, and she nodded her head appreciatively, except over one passage at which she sat up rather grimly, I thought. I went to bed, leaving it as it was, and in the morning I went to look at it again. On it there was a little piece of paper pinned over the offending bars.
All of it is beautiful and just right, except the ending. Don't you think, dear Edward, that the end is just a little...
Well, I scrapped that end. Not another word was ever said about it, but I rewrote it. I finished the first movement of the piano quintet. It's strange music, I think, and I like it, but it's ghostly stuff. Algernon Blackwood has been down here telling me his strange stories. We went to see the group of dead trees at Bedham Copse. Sinister trees. They look as if they were struck dead by some curse. Perhaps they were practitioners of black magic who were cursed and turned into trees and struck by lightning as they performed their weird dance. They're a strange sight in the evening, with their branches beckoning and holding up gaunt arms in derision.
Bernard Shaw came to hear a private playthrough of the quintet. He said it was the finest thing of its kind since Beethoven's Coriolan. He didn't know why he associated them, but he did.
My poor Alice isn't well. We've returned for the winter to Hampstead, but it's cold and we can't get extra coal. And we've been burgled. They took knives, forks, and most of my clothes, even my braces. It's only a few years since Troy Griffith at Malvern made me take out a burglary insurance. I told him I detested doing anything antagonistic to a profession I felt I'd have distinguished myself in, but on second thoughts, perhaps insurance doesn't hurt the burglar. But I can't live here anymore. If I have to go on living in Hampstead, composition is off. It's not the place or the house, but London, telephone, etc., all day and night. Drives me mad. I've nearly completed the cello concerto. Alice likes it.
Wonderful new music. Real wood sounds and other lament which should be in a war symphony.
It's a real large work, and I think good and alive.
First rehearsal of cello concerto today at Queen's Hall. Albert Coates was conducting the other works, and he went on rehearsing his Scriabin for an hour after the time he'd agreed Edward should take over. It was an insult to Edward from that brutal, selfish, ill-mannered bounder.
I've forgotten the cello concerto. There's absolutely nothing left in the world for me. I'm not really depressed, only I see the inevitable. I've never permitted myself any illusions, and have none now. I never really belonged to the musical world. I detest my slightest necessary connection with it, and should be glad to have done with it and get back to being with dogs and horses. I fear the unveiling of the cenotaph won't include me. They've dropped the idea of performing for the fallen. The present proposals are vulgar and commonplace to the last degree. I really can't appear in it. Poor Alice has a fresh cold and can't get rid of the tiresome cough. But she hopes to get to the concert next month, when this new young conductor, Adrian Bolt, is to do my second symphony.
Wonderful performance of the symphony. From beginning to end, it seemed absolutely to penetrate the audience's mind and heart. After the first movement, there was great applause and shouts, rarely heard till the end as a rule, and great applause all through. Adrian was wonderful. At the end, there was fantastic enthusiasm, and they dragged out Edward, who looked very overcome, hand in hand with Adrian at least 3 times. Oh, Edward was so happy and pleased.
Tonight, Alice and I went to hear my 3 chamber works. I thought of the 30 weary, fighting years of her help and devotion. She seems to be getting mysteriously smaller and more fragile, fading away before my eyes. I tried to be frivolous yesterday, but I'm heartbroken. Our poor little dear one is inarticulate. It's too awful. Darling wife, I thought you would rather I went to my lunch, so I've started. You was asleep. I shall be back very quick. I kissed your paws, both. Your own Edu. I'm doing my best here at my sister's in Worcestershire. Juno seems to know that something is wrong and never leaves me. Such wonderful things are dogs. Here my dear Alice never came, so I can bear the sight of the woods and fields. I'm leaving Sussex. They've cut down the woods near Brinkwells and made a road, and it's full of remembrances. My whole past is wiped out, and I'm quite alone. I hear nothing of anyone, and don't write at all. In fact, I've gone out, and like it. Let us go hence, my songs. She will not hear. Let us go hence together without fear. Keep silence now, for singing time is over, and over all old things, and all things dear.